couple people who asked that couldn't be here tonight, so we wanted to make sure it's available, and then it's available to you all as well. So we'll share that link with you. I think Peyton, who is our tech extraordinaire on staff, in addition to being our community engagement specialist, she's going to get the video, and maybe we'll create like a YouTube link or something that will be easy for you all to access and go back to. But I don't want to keep talking forever either, so I am going to go ahead and also thank Dr. Permensky and her graduate student Elif for being willing to do this, and for putting together material and a presentation for this evening, and investing your time in that way, and for sharing your knowledge and your skills with us tonight. With that being said, I think I will go ahead then and turn it over to you. It looks like I lost what time it is. It looks like it's after 5:10, so I'm good if you get started, and we don't need to run over the time that we allotted. So I will turn it over to you, and then you tell me what you need me to do at any point also. As my co-host powers, you let me know what you need from me, but I'll kind of keep my eye on chat and those things as we go.
Thank you, Bronwyn, and thank you, Gina. Gina and I have known each other for years now and working together, and she's just amazing. So anytime Gina emails me, it's always a yes, because I just love working with her and everything that you do. And we just want to reiterate too how much we appreciate the service you all provide to the community. It's just so valuable to our community, makes such a difference. So we thank you for that. So I'm going to start, and again, jump right in. Your time is valuable tonight, so we're really going to try to move quickly, efficiently, but also give you a little time to chat, because it's true, during COVID, we don't get that time to chat, and sometimes just having that time to talk to each other is real nice. So we hope to build in some time in little breakout rooms where you have a chance to speak with each other. So I'm Carrie Permensky. I'm the coordinator of the MA TESOL program at the University of Central Florida. And I've been working in TESOL, I guess now I'm at 30 plus years. So it's been a long time, and I think some of you maybe have been doing this too for a while. So I spent most of my youth in my 20s traveling the world, working in Egypt, South Korea, the Czech Republic, some other countries teaching, loving it, and coming back to the States and working also as a high school teacher, a middle school teacher, never an elementary school teacher. That was never my strong point, was working with the little ones, even though I adore them. I've mostly worked with older kids and up. So it's been many years, and I've been at UCF now for close to 18 years. Working in TESOL, and I just love it and wouldn't want to do anything else. So I thank you for giving me your attention tonight. So I will let my student, Elif, introduce herself.
Thank you, Dr. Permensky. Well, to say a few words about myself, I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey, so my first language is Turkish. I studied English language teaching in college, and I taught English at the K-12 level for a few years after that. And then I decided to get an MA in TESOL, and I came to Orlando to study at UCF. And I have been working with adult English learners, and I've also been involved in teacher education ever since then. When I have the chance, I want to thank the Adult Literacy League for this opportunity, because it's always good to share ideas with one another, especially under these circumstances. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So normally I wish we had time to have everybody introduce themselves, but I'm afraid that might take up a lot of our time. So we won't have that opportunity, but I will share with you a little bit about our agenda tonight, because it always is great to start out with understanding what you're going to be doing and when you're going to be doing it. So one, as Bronwyn said, it's usually best if you have mute on. because even background noises can be a little distracting. So unless you're speaking, but if you do have a question, you can send it to Bronwyn in the chat. She will be monitoring the chat, or you can raise your hand physically, or you can raise your little yellow Zoom hand too if you have a question, because we're happy to do that. In a minute, I'm going to share the agenda. We have chosen 6 activities that we hope to present to you tonight. These activities were really designed to be simple. So in other words, you don't need anything special in order to do them. No special technology or special technological knowledge in order to use them. Some of them are more designed for small groups or large groups, but we're going to make sure we talk about adapting them to one-on-one, because we know that many of you work one-on-one. We understand even some of you work through WhatsApp. So we do hope, as we discuss these activities, that they'll again be adaptable even to other platforms such as WhatsApp. They're also meant to be adaptable at all levels. We know that our English learners come to us from different places. So sometimes they're at the very beginning, sometimes they're at that intermediate interlanguage stage, really developing their voice, and then sometimes they're advanced. So we will also talk about how every activity can be adapted for all those levels. We hope to invite some of your sharing tonight so that you can share if you've done something similar or what you feel works, or maybe, oh, you know what I just thought of as I saw you do that? We could do it in this way. Or what if you did that? We love to hear from our teachers about, oh, that would work, but you know what I would do? I would do this. As Bronwyn said, all the materials will be shared. The meeting is being recorded. And I think that's it before we get started. Alif, are we ready to jump right in?
Yes, we are, Dr.
Awesome. So the first thing I'm going to do is share our agenda. And Gina, you're right at the top of my screen. Is my agenda showing? Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start with My Precious. It's a vocabulary and sentence builder. Next, we're going to talk about leveled questioning. And this is not really an activity so much as just kind of a reminder about when we're working with English learners and we want to prompt discussion. Oral or written, how we frame or create the questions and follow up is really important. So we're going to go through some ideas about how we do that. And I'm going to have a PowerPoint actually to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll on down to our third activity, which is called Colorful Cards, which is another vocabulary builder. What is it? A vocabulary and sentence builder. Choose a Place, which is a communication builder. And last, we're going to end up with Google Forms, which is sentence building and assessment, which may turn into a poetry slam using Jamboard. So we're going to see which one might work best. So our first activity actually is going to allow you to break into groups, which I really like. So you'll get a chance to talk to each other and then come back to the group and share. So this first activity that is called My Precious can be done even when you're face-to-face. In fact, it was first designed called My Backpack. And it was meant for students to pull a personal item from their backpack, from their desk, from their purse, from their bag, and just share a little bit about that, because we know there's nothing students like better than to share a little piece of themselves with you and with the class. And also with language, it's so helpful to go from a safe place, and a safe place is talking about something that you know. So in this activity, which is very adaptable to simple to more advanced language, simple starting out with, this is a cup. I drink tea from my cup, or I have tea. Whereas an intermediate learner might say something like, I have glasses and I need my glasses to see. Or even our advanced learners, you might share, this, for example, is from my high school graduation. I got it out because my daughter is getting ready to graduate high school. So I thought she might like to see my high school graduation, and the numbers on there, I will not tell you. That's going to remain my secret, but it's somewhere from the 80s. So it's basically picking up an item that is nearby, close to them, and describing it with one sentence, or if they can do more, 2 or 3 sentences. In a small group, you can do this in a breakout room. If it's just you and that person, you can kind of go back and forth, always with you starting as the model. It's always great to give them the model of the sentence so that they know what to do. And for your more advanced learners, they be able to come up with words on their own. So we're going to do this activity very quickly. Elif, do you have an item you would also like to share with us before we put them in our breakout rooms?
Yes. This is my notebook. I love it so much because I get to write things on it so that I don't forget about them and I learn something new.
Thank you. And this is also a great way for your student to get to know you. Gina was talking with one of the mentors earlier, Richard, I think it was, about how comfortable they feel with them. So in addition to asking students to share about themselves, it's great when you share something personal with them too. I think it makes them trust you more and feel more comfortable doing it. So what we're going to do right now is, 1, look around you and see if you have an item that you feel comfortable sharing with the group. Does everybody have an item to share? Get a thumbs up or a nod. Great. And I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. You're going to be with 3 people. So in your breakout room, you're going to show your item. Number 2, you're going to say what your item is. And number 3, you're going to add a detail about that item. Now, this may be a little too fast, but normally I also have another student ask a question about that item. So if you're in a small group, the other person can ask a question. If it's just the 2 of you, you can ask a follow-up question, because that follow-up question, often we get more detail and it gives that student more opportunity to use language. So at this point, I'm going to put you into random breakout rooms. Now I see we have 21 participants. So I'm going to put you, I'm going to make, oh, Bronwyn, was that you? Oh, no. Okay. So I'm going to do 9 breakout rooms. Because 20, 21, yeah, that should work. 9 breakout rooms. So even if you're in a breakout room with just 2, or if you end up with 3, please just be prepared again to review. Show your item, say what it is, give one detail about that item, and if we have time, have another participant ask a question about that item. When I bring you back, we're going to call on a couple people to share what they demonstrated. So here we go to our breakout rooms. When you're assigned to a breakout room, you just need to click on it and accept that invitation, and I'll give you about 2 minutes in your breakout rooms. If for some reason you end up alone or aren't sure what to do, we're here to help. So have fun.
Should I join one, Dr. Permansky?
No, you can stay here. So was there anything I missed in those details, or
No.
anything I should? Okay.
Sorry,
So
I forgot to have an object ready. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Personal.
Okay, let's see. It's 5:24, so already we're heading to 5. We'll try to finish this. I'll come back and I'll let you pick which room And we'll ask just maybe 2 rooms and 1 person from each room. Okay, does that sound good? Because that way we'll stay, I want to stay right on track. Everybody got into their rooms okay? I see. Is there one person, are you having difficulty finding your room? I see 195764. Oh, you know what? Richard's all by himself then. Alif, would you mind joining? Oh, they left. So I'm gonna move Richard to room 4. Because otherwise he would be by himself. So we have a couple groups of 3. Oh, and Valerie, let's move her to room 9 because she's also by herself. Okay, so we have room 1, room 2, room 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And do you think I've given them enough time? It takes about,
Should be enough.
I think so. I'm gonna go ahead and close the rooms. They still have a minute, right? So they can finish up. What rooms are you going to choose?
4, 2, and 6,
Okay.
or just 2.
Okay, we have 15 more seconds and everybody will join us. And then Alif is going to call on a couple of groups just to share what they found out in their rooms about what is precious to everybody.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that was fun.
Okay, great.
Everyone
Now that
back?
everybody is back, Alif, what group would you like to choose to share one person's precious?
Group 4. Do we have
Okay,
anyone
would
from
someone
group
from
4?
group 4 share?
Not sure what group we're in.
Sure, I'll share. What I did was I showed him my little, this was just sitting on my desk, and it's some little designs made with tiny strips of paper, and I did it on a cruise instead of learning how to fold napkins.
I like that. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Alif, how about another group?
What about group 6?
Okay, group 6.
I think Rick should share.
Okay, must be something interesting.
Go ahead, Rick.
No, Marga, go ahead.
Okay, Margot, he's sending it back to you.
Okay, I shared my water bottle, my Yeti. And I like it because it keeps my water cold for hours. And I like to stay hydrated.
Absolutely,
Yay.
very useful, right? Thank you, Margaret. Alif, how about one more group?
What about group 1? Group 1? Anyone from group 1? Room 1?
This is Cindy. I'll go ahead and go.
Thanks, Cindy.
Hi, my dog. I showed an award that I got when I was working. I retired at the end of 2019, but this was an award I got for the years of service for supporting the Army, and I'm very proud of it.
Wow, Cindy, congratulations. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Great. So thank you everybody for sharing. I hope you maybe learned something about those with you. Has anyone done something similar with their mentees? Okay. Well, that was our first activity, and I hope you found it useful. It's a great way as a sentence starter. It's a great way to get to know your student and have the student get to know you. And you can certainly build on it as you work more and more with your student. They can even prepare items or bring photographs, collect items that you can specifically ask them to bring to share, and do it each week as a great way to start your session. Okay, any questions before we move on to activity 2? All right, seeing none. Now for this one, as I said, this activity isn't as much an activity as kind of an approach. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is actually going to be a PowerPoint. And Alif, are you seeing my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So leveled questioning, as it's known, is really just an approach that we want to take with our students. We're all working with students at different levels, as we mentioned, maybe beginner, intermediate, advanced. And so often we're trying to prompt discussion. We're trying to prompt oral language. And how do we do that? Well, with questioning. So how we create those questions or frame those questions is really important, because we want our students to not only comprehend, but be able to answer us. And we want to have prepared responses. So we need to not only anticipate the kind of questions we might want to ask about our content for the day, we also want to anticipate their responses so we can be prepared with either a correction, a redirection, or just a follow-up questions. It's often in those question, response, follow-up, and response where really we get to that lovely meat of the language. So I'm going to go ahead and just open them all up. One way that we're going to talk about leveled questions today is just look at the different types of questions based on, for example, a picture. So you might be working with a piece of text, you might be working with pictures, you might just be having a conversation about a topic. But either way, when we're working with maybe beginning English learners, we're often going to use very simple, one word or yes, no questions, and usually in that present tense. So what is this, or where are they, for example? With our intermediate English learners, so once they've advanced past that beginning level, and this could be something you kind of determine the more you work with your student, or it might be information you gather from the Adult Literacy League. At that point, they're going to be prepared for maybe moving into the continuous tense, or moving into talking about the past or the future. So here, intermediate students might be able to answer, what are they doing, or where do you think they're going? So they can get past those one-word answers and maybe even make some conjectures about what is happening or what they see. Now, at our advanced English learners, we want to make sure that when we're creating those questions, we're pushing them just a little bit. Of course, they want to improve their language. So in order to improve, we have to push them a little bit harder, ask those more complex questions so that even if they can't answer it, it means they maybe have to ask you, what is the meaning of that word, or what does that mean? And that prompts even more language. So our advanced English learners might look at this picture and you ask them, Are they starting or ending their day? Or if you could join them on this journey, where would the destination be and why do you think that is? So again, it's not really about the picture or the content for the day. It's more about framing those questions in a way that they understand, that they can answer, and that prompts as much language as possible. So does anyone have a question about these type of questions? Not so far? Okay, so let's go on to another picture. And actually, there was one point I wanted to make. I was going to wait to the end, but I think actually I'm going to make it now about this picture and kind of how we choose our content that we use in our classroom. This is a picture of Disney, and I see this a lot with the teachers in my classroom and the students. They bring in pictures of Disney. Why? Because they're trying to do something local. If you're working with parents who are here in Orlando, you maybe try to pick familiar landmarks and familiar topics or content. But what can sometimes be an issue with a picture such as Walt Disney World? If anyone has just an idea.
Not everyone has the money to go to Disney.
Exactly. So that's one of the things we really want to consider when we choose the topics we talk about, because we might think, oh, this is familiar to everybody. Oh, this is everybody would like to talk about Disney. It's right here in Orlando. But we got to also think about what is accessible for our students. And Walt Disney World isn't accessible for everybody. So sometimes choosing photographs or content of items that we really think as accessible to all of our students is an important choice to make. So what could be another option here as opposed to a picture of Walt Disney World?
Maybe a park, maybe a local park.
Yeah,
you know, just a neighborhood park or a state park.
I like that. Anything else? Anyone else use great pictures as prompts that they felt were really accessible and prompted a lot of discussion?
I had a map of Kissimmee, of downtown Kissimmee. And so the students saw the different sculptures, and if they had ever been to Kissimmee, they were able to connect the content from the map with, with their experiences.
I love that. So something very accessible an area, and they not only learn maybe the questions, but the content too. So Bron, when I saw something in the chat, is there anything I should know about this? The chat, any questions from there?
No, I was just apologizing because I keep getting kicked off. I'm on with my phone now. So
okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what the problem is. I apologize.
Okay, so here's a picture, and the reason the Statue of Liberty often comes up or something similar is because if we're working with our students, if they're going to be preparing to take the citizenship test, sometimes we have to focus on content that they might see there. And so we may have to explain this, though. We consider this an iconic photograph, something everyone's familiar with. But again, we can't make assumptions about our students. So we might want to just start with what is this to make sure that we have an assumed knowledge that they don't have. Would anyone like to throw out other questions that a beginning English learner might be able to answer about this picture?
Where is this?
It's almost like you knew. Awesome. Where is the statue, or where is it? Good. Any other questions for beginning English learners?
Have you ever visited this?
Okay. Have you ever visited? That's a good question. Probably for a beginner. That might be a little more complex. That might be intermediate. But you could say, if we want to do present tense, what do you see? Okay, how about what is behind the statue to get into the city? Any other questions?
It might be as simple as what time of year is it?
Good. Yes. What time of year is it? Yes. Again, we're going for those beginning letters, those one-word answers. Okay. And is the statue a woman or a man? It's again a yes or no question. Okay, great. So let's think about our intermediate learners. And here we're moving into the more continuous tense. And maybe there might be more than a one-word answer. For example, what is she holding in her hand? Any other ideas for intermediate English learner questions?
What else do you see in the picture?
Good. And again, it's prompting more discussion. Yeah. What else? I like that. What else do you see? And it's open-ended, right? So for our intermediate learners, it might really push them to bring in more language. Other questions? That's a great example. Now, those last two, like, tell me about the history, who built it, how was it built? Now, this is assuming knowledge. So these last two, I think these why questions and tell me about are those, to me, getting to more almost advanced questions. The structure is intermediate, but we're kind of assuming knowledge. So the reason they're here is before you might ask those kind of questions, you might want to ensure that your students have a little bit of knowledge. You've already asked some questions, and maybe that question earlier about have you seen it or do you know it? Then if the student has seen it and if they do know it, then you can move on to these questions that might be a little more complex about why is it in the New York City or in New York, and tell me about its history. So for the advanced learners, where we're really wanting to prompt much deeper detail, an example might be, if you could design a new Statue of Liberty, what would it be? Now, what are some other very advanced questions we might ask about the Statue of Liberty?
What does the Statue of Liberty mean to you?
I love that. Yeah. What does it mean to you? That's a great question. It not only personalizes it, but it opens it up for lots of language. Any other for advanced learners?
Say who was the one who made the Statue of Liberty?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
And who was the one who did the statue? You know, who
Okay, yes. So if you want to ask who made the Statue of Liberty, you could be asking them, one, do they know the content? Do they know the history? And then you could even take it further. How could you take it further? Who made the Statue of Liberty and?
Who wrote the poem that is on the Statue of Liberty? Because I see you have a reference to the poem there.
Right, good. So you could ask who wrote the poem, okay, which is a kind of an intermediate level, but then you could follow that up with those advanced questions where, again, you're trying to bring out more language. You're trying to actually not just have them talk about the Statue of Liberty, but have them expand as much as possible, personalize it. If they can put themselves in the place of another person, like the last one, 100 years ago, how would you have felt? So you're trying to have them put themselves in the place of another person. And why we want to ask these make sure we're asking these advanced level questions of our students is because it's, again, that push, asking them to use more language, not the simple present tense, not just the past tense, but actually, how would you have felt? So I would have felt. So what you're trying to prompt them to do at those advanced levels is get them to use language that maybe they don't use on a daily basis, but it gives you an opportunity to work with them to develop that language. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, based on time, I'm going to move strictly to how you prep for using the different types of questions you want to use with your student. One, and this form is kind of formal. You certainly don't have to do that, but as you're preparing for your session, choosing your content, choosing your text, thinking about how you might interact with your student, it is really important to think about the questions, think about the level of your student and if they're appropriate for that level. Then kind of anticipate knowing your student. Okay, how might they answer this question? And then how might I follow up? So it's really a matter of preparing questions in advance, because the question and response are the way that we create language. And so that preparation is so important for your students. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint and ask before we finish up this section and move on to Elif, who's got some really fun stuff for us. Are there any questions about questions, or do you have a great idea that you use to create questions for when you're working with your student?
I had a question about how much correction we should do when our students respond. You know, say, for example, if they use the wrong verb tense or something, or do we just listen because we're encouraging them to respond?
Margot, that's a great question. And you know what? It could be almost a whole session just on error correction, because there's no one right answer. Because a lot of it depends on the student and the situation. But I would say in most cases, what works well, if you're just having a conversation, a back and forth, you're wanting to just communicate with your student, error correction isn't necessary. But when you're moving into content and you're actually working on, say, for example, present continuous tense, right? You're working on a certain verb tense. Then if you're in that content, it is important to provide correction to your student because you're trying to improve their language. So some professionals feel that they like what we call like a recast, where you might repeat what they said, but using the correct form. Others might say, could you say that again? And give them an opportunity to repeat, because sometimes the second time they do it, they're like, oh, that's right. I didn't remember that I was supposed to do that. Others like a more direct correction where you say, actually, or in English, or the best form to use is, or remember, we talked about this, and redirect them with that. So Elif, what is one of the ways that you use error correction with your students?
It depends on It depends on what the learner expects, actually. If we're working with advanced students with more academic needs, and if we're focusing on something specific on that day, I want to provide them a lot of details. I want to remind them the rule, because that's what they're expecting. But if it's a class focusing more on speaking and they want to improve that ability, perhaps, I would just choose their most dominant or the most important ones and just recast, just have them repeat the correct structure, just to help. So it all depends on the learner needs, as you said, Dr. Permansky. The answer is complex, but I think the key is their needs here.
Right. Many times we feel, I think, reluctant because we don't want them to feel nervous. We want them to speak more. But at the same time, a lot of students will say, no, please correct me. I want to be better. So it's okay to talk with your student if they're at the level where they can understand, like, this is how I will work with you, or this is how I will correct you. So they know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why. It's okay to have that conversation with the student. And we'll find that some students may not react as well. If you feel like when you correct them, they get quieter, they're shutting down, you can, move back and not do as much correction. But other students who work well with you and enjoy that conversation and back and forth, you can continue to use that method. It's a great question, Margot. And Richard, I see you have a comment here. Jump right in about error correction.
I do a Zoom class for advanced conversation. I have about 5 to 6 people. And although they make some mistakes as they're explaining something, usually the correction I do is I type it into the chat. So they can read the chat and I don't have to stop them from continuing their thought and continuing to speak, but the correction's in the chat and they can save the chat afterwards.
That's a great idea, Richard. So he's using a direct correction approach, but he's putting it in the chat so that they can go to look. So you probably told them, look in the chat for my corrections, right? I think that's a great idea. Anyone else have some method that they've used that they feel has worked really well with their students?
I do. I have a student who's intermediate to advanced, and we begin each lesson with talking about how was your week or what did you do? And it's a one-on-one. So, and I'm new to this, so I don't know if this is right, but it seems to work really well because as she's talking to me, I'm typing what she's saying and I'm learning about her. So I learned she's a gardener. So I had so many questions about gardening and she could visually see what she was saying. We would stop and we would go over any grammatical questions or errors she made because she wants to learn. She wants to know when she's making an error. So this has become part of our weekly sessions, is having this dialogue where she's speaking and she's also visually able to see what she's saying.
Okay, Hillary, thank you so much for sharing. So again, that's kind of a direct approach where I like that you're using the oral and the written to kind of build the conversation. And it seems like her students really comfortable. They found an approach that works well for both. So I like that you've come together for that. So that's a great question, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alif now so we can get through the rest of our activities. But if you have any further questions about leveled questioning or error correction, feel free to put it in the chat or to follow up with us. So Alif, I'm going to turn it over to you for your colorful cards.
Thank you, Dr. Pomensky. I'm going to go ahead and screen share. If I can, yes. So, do you see my PowerPoint right here? Colorful cards. Okay, we're actually going to do this activity together and it will be in Turkish, but I don't want you to worry. I will help you. I will provide you the correct pronunciation, the correct structure. So I'm here. But before we start, I want to talk a little bit about this activity. So it's very simple. We have colorful cards here and the learners, they just pick a color and when I remove the card, we see an adjective here. So this is, obviously this is meant for beginner level, low beginners, because they see the adjective, you provide them the correct structure and then they use it in the sentence, just like we will do in a minute, but you can adjust this to different levels. So you can provide more advanced vocabulary, what you've taught them recently, and you can be more flexible when it comes to the target structure. You can tell them, okay, you can form a sentence using present perfect, or you can let them do whatever they want. But our target today is low beginners, because I am assuming most of you are low beginners in Turkish. So I'm going to ask one of you to pick a card. I will remove it and you will use it in a sentence. I will say it to you first. I will say, this one is, for example, eğlenceli. Eğlenceli, it means fun. So first you say the word and then this is our sentence. It's very simple. So we put the pronoun here, the name of the person, and you will choose one classmate for this. For example, I might say, I see Richard, I might say, Richard çok eğlenceli, which means Richard is very fun. it has to have this chalk, because we love doing that in Turkey. We love exaggerating things, especially when it comes to adjectives. So we almost always use chalk. So that's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, we're not all of you will not be able to practice this, but we will do it with a few of you if we can. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to name one of you. The student that I name goes next, and we continue like that. Does it sound doable? Okay, amazing. So I'm going to start with, okay. I go with pink. Let's see what's behind pink. Okay. The adjective is şanslı, lucky. And for this one, I'm choosing one of my classmates. I think we have Margot. Margot, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Margot.
Margot çok şanslı. Margot çok şanslı. Margot is very lucky. So Margot goes next now. She picks a color and she will form her own sentence.
Okay. I'm using a Kindle. I'm not sure if I can pick. Let's see.
If you tell me, I will remove it for you. This is how, unfortunately, we don't have that technology.
Green.
Green. Okay, let's see what's behind green. We have zengin. If you could repeat the word, Margot. Zengin.
Zengin.
Okay, who is zengin in this class, you think? Who is zengin? Who is rich? Who do you want to use in this sentence?
Richard.
Richard. Çok.
Çok. Zengin.
Zengin. Richard. Çok. Zengin. Thank you, Margot. So Richard, now this is your turn to pick a color.
Okay, blue.
Blue. Okay, let's see what's behind blue. We got Zeki. If you could repeat. Zeki.
Okay.
Richard. Richard, could you repeat? Zeki.
Zeki.
Zeki. It means clever, smart. So now you're going to pick one classmate and you will use their name in a sentence.
Okay. Catherine Cook Zeki.
Zeki. Great job. Catherine çok zeki. Catherine, if you could pick a card. Let's go to the next one so we'll have more options. I think you're muted, Catherine. Can you unmute?
Orange.
Orange. Okay, let's see what's behind orange. We have cesur, brave. Cesur, if you could repeat. Cesur. Cesur. So who is cesur in this classroom?
Rick.
Rick.
Çok cesur.
Rick çok cesur. Great job. Great job. And this will be our last student, unfortunately. I wish we could continue, but Rick, could you pick a card for us?
Gold.
Did you say blue?
No, I said gold. Has that been picked?
Oh, yellow, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. We have neşeli behind yellow. Neşeli. Who is neşeli in this class?
Catherine çok neşeli.
Catherine çok neşeli. Great job. So in a classroom, especially if it's a crowded classroom, you could encourage your learners to name other students, the ones that haven't been used yet. So this is how the activity is. Again, you can adjust this. You can even use, if you don't use PowerPoint, if you're doing it on WhatsApp, you can use real cards. You can ask your learner to pick a card and you can ask them to use it in a sentence. The thing is, if you add the element of choice, they suddenly start enjoying it more and they feel a part of the classroom. And if you're curious about how this is designed, it's very simple, actually. What I did, I just went to insert on PowerPoint, and here I went to shapes, and I chose this one, the rectangular one. And on it, you can change the shape fill from here. You can change the colors, but first I made a gray one. I added text on it. It says edit text right here, or you can just add a text box. And, oh, right here, sorry. Edit text, Zengin. This is white, it needs to be visible. You make it black or whatever color you want. And on top of it, you can copy and paste this one. Actually, copy, paste. Just remove this, the text. And if you change the color, the filling from here, shape format, shape fill. This is how we create these shapes, and you can create other ones just by copying and pasting it, editing the text behind it. And if you want to move it to the top or to the bottom, we have the options right here. If you double click, right click, sorry, bring to front, send to back. So this is how we get to hide shapes behind one another. It's actually very, very simple if you decide to just play a little bit with PowerPoint. And the key is I'm not on presentation mode. I'm on editing mode, as you can see. So you can really make use of this, of PowerPoint. So if, are we ready to move to our next activity? This one will be in English, so.
Thank you, Alif. I think that's wonderful. And as she said, it's so easily adaptable to just you creating your own colorful cards even by hand if you feel more comfortable doing it that way and flipping it around. But I think, as she said, the choice in the color makes it feel more like a game and more comfortable. So thank you.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Pomensky. And our next one is a sentence builder. This is more for our learners speaking and listening skills. So what I did was that I just combined pictures together. Whatever you're covering on that day, on that week, you can find pictures related to those. And this is basically a guessing name. So students, they can do this in groups, or you can do this one-on-one with the student. You can be their pair. They choose one picture, but they don't tell you what it is. They just pick a number, and they describe it to you. They describe what they see on the picture, what the people are doing on the picture, and their classmate or you try to guess which picture it is. And they take turns like this. What we're going to do is that, do we have time, Dr. Pomensky, for a short breakout room activity? I think you're muted. Are you, Dr. Pomensky?
Sorry, I was muted. It's 6:02. So maybe you could go ahead and just have us do it in a large group. You could choose one or a volunteer maybe to do it and another volunteer to answer.
Okay, that sounds great. But I can't see names. That's the problem. So do we have any volunteers? So you will pick a picture. You won't tell us what it is. You will describe it to us, and we will try to guess which picture it is. Any volunteers? You can unmute and speak.
I could do it.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. I'm really sorry, I can't see your name, but please go ahead.
That's Margot, I think, right?
My name is Opal.
Oh, hi, Opal. Okay, Opal, you want to do it? And we can open it up. Why don't you could even put it in the chat, everybody, if you don't want to yell it out, which picture she's describing.
So just pick one picture and describe it. Is that all?
Yes, but please don't tell us the number of the
Oh,
picture.
no. Okay. Of course. Well, I see. It looks like the inside of a store. Or it could be a cafeteria or something. There's several people there standing in a line, and there's like a menu up on the other side of the counter. They have like a counter there, and some lights hanging down from the ceiling. And then see, there's one of the ladies has nice sandals on. She has like shorts or something, or maybe a short skirt. The other lady has a long pants and
Thank you, Opal. I think we already have so many guesses right here. Everyone's saying number 4. So Opal, great description skills and great speaking skills. Thank you. So this is the summary of it. Again, you can do this one-on-one. You can describe it first. The student tries to guess it. Guess it. So it's a listening activity, and the student can describe it. You can try to guess it, and it's a speaking activity, and it can be adjusted to all levels. With beginners, you can provide more prompting, a little bit help, a little bit of scaffolding. And we have one more activity.
Elif, maybe you want to tell them about your choice of pictures too.
Yes, actually, I had to make sure to add more cultural diversity into the picture, because the first ones I found, the first ones that show up, they didn't really have it, but we want to make sure that we get to represent more than just one culture in our pictures. And also you can try to choose more simple pictures for lower level learners, maybe just one object, and more complex, more crowded ones for more advanced learners. And sorry, this one, by the way, I actually wanted to talk to you about this. If we were to put you in breakout rooms for this activity, you were not going to be able to see the picture. So what I did was that I used one of those quick picture link websites, this one, ibb.co, but there are also others, image URL. If you want to make sure that they want to see an image, or they want to see an image when they're in the breakout room, you can do that. You can just give them the link, create a short link and provide it so they'll be able to see the picture. And then the next one is, again, we will not have time to do this one, but I will talk about it very briefly. This is a conversation activity, and it includes, again, the element of choice. So you can use breakout rooms for this. If you're not using Zoom, you can just ask the learner, hey, where do you want to go today? Do you want to go to the grocery store? Do you want to go to the mall, go to the bank? So they get to choose a place to go. And you provide a scenario specifically for that place. So it's always good if it's something that they can actually use in their daily lives, because we're working with ESL learners and we want them to be able to use what they learn in the classroom. So if you are at the mall, for example, the issue we have here is one of the students is the customer, the other one is the sales representative, and they want to return an item, but maybe a problem occurs. Maybe the item has been used, maybe there's a problem with the credit card. You can keep the conversation going, and if again they are lower level learners, you can provide the whole text to them. They can read it. Maybe just give some blanks, leave some words as blanks. But if they're more advanced, you can just provide the context, the problem to them, and they can create their own dialogue, which they can use in their daily life. So these are basically situations. Yes, you will get the slides, Nancy. You will have access to the slides. So it would be so much better if we could practice it, but for our time's sake, I think I will pause here. Dr. Permensky.
That's great. And can we think of other scenarios? I was thinking many of you may work with parents, and a challenge for parents is often going to the school or interacting with the school. It can be very intimidating, and the material from a school can be intimidating. So in addition to Alif, who has these wonderful scenarios, and as she said that they do maybe on a daily basis, I was thinking in a school and interacting with the teacher or principal might be another good topic. But are there other good topics that you've shared, maybe that you role play with your student, or that you've had your students role play?
Oh, could I say what I do?
Is that Valerie?
Yes. I just basically talk, and she wants to be corrected as far as her pronunciation. And so like sometimes she'll say like, I live in a condom. And then I tell her, you know, we do funny things, you know, she'll say, and I'll tell her, okay, now you don't live in a condom. And you know, and so then, you know, but we laugh. And then also she has this newspaper she gets that's, I don't know the name of it, but it's written for people who speak another language, but it's written in English. And she'll read articles to me, and it also has some vocabulary in there for each article. So we just read, and then if I don't understand something, she says, because some words I understand are not correct. And she's taught me some Spanish because she's told me how in Spanish they pronounce each letter a certain way, but in English you have like a short sound or a long sound. And so that's why she says them. So if I don't understand what she's saying, then I correct it. Like I say, what is that last word you just said? And then she'll spell it. And she wants me to do that, correct it. But it'll be some article that she's reading. And if I understand what she's saying, then I, you know, don't say anything. But if I don't understand the word, then we discuss it.
Okay.
So we just talk. We don't, you know, either, you know, she reads an article or we just talk about also, we start out with what we did during the week and things like that. And I usually have that baby with me, but so we can talk about all kinds of things.
Valerie, I like that idea of choosing something that she's reading. So it means something she's interested in, which again, that we talked about, that's so important, that if it's something that they're engaged with, it's important to them, it brings in that motivation for them to use that language. That's great. So any other ideas about topics other than the great ones Alif came up with? So what I like about what Alif did is it's not just going to the store, but she gives them a task, a very specific task to accomplish. And that's often helpful in a role play, because role play can be difficult, right? Just off the top of your head. But if you have a task, you can really focus on that. So any other ideas for tasks that you want your students to use during a role play or conversation? I see Bronwyn.
Yeah, I'm not Gina, but I moved to Gina's computer. I was going to say we've had a couple tutors who report to us in their monthly report that they've been doing some role playing related to medical appointments, maybe like scheduling an appointment or going in, and especially now with all of the medical information that we have right now, they're doing some role play, and they've had some success with that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's, again, anytime we can provide some comfort to our students so that they feel more comfortable in these situations, which I want to go back to, again, Alif, that wonderful, colorful cards that she did. How many of you, when she said, we're going to do it in Turkish, how many of you, your heart went up just a little bit in your stomach, like, I have to do Turkish, right? So yeah, exactly. That's what you're saying. So that's how our students feel, you know, when you get that, like, that little bit of anxiety, like, oh no, I'm in front of someone, I have to use another language, you could see the pronunciation was very different, the alphabet was different, but she made us feel comfortable with it. But now we know a little bit of that anxiety our students can feel when they're doing another language for the first time. So that's another thing I like about what Elif presented. So great. So last topics before we go to our last activity. Okay, I don't see any. And I'm going to show you just a little bit because having heard everything that you said, I think the poetry activity might be more useful than Google Forms. Elif, would you agree?
Yes, Dr. Wilson.
Okay, I think so too. So I don't know how many of you, and I'll share more information about the Google Forms at the very end, but how many of you use any kind of Google apps with your students? No. Okay, so I'm going to show you a very, very simple one that actually could work very well one-on-one. And what it involves is a little bit of sharing, and you don't even have to use this, what's called a Google Jamboard. This could be something that you can easily do with sticky notes, or you could even do with, I've even seen teachers hold up a piece of paper, right? I'm going to use a Jamboard today to do it, just to show you how to do it. But there are going to be many ways to do it. So Elif, you're at the top. Do you see my Jamboard? Okay, so if you have a Google account and you go into My Drive and you go into New, there's all kinds of different forms you can use, docs or sheets or slides, or here more where you can get to a Google Jamboard. And what happens when you pull up a Google Jamboard is you have just this kind of white sheet that you can interact with and show your students, which I really like. So all I did here was, and I'll do it again, is create a circle, which you can draw, make bigger or smaller, which I've put here. And I've chosen a word family. And this kind of family group is, say, for example, you want to work with your student on a particular pronunciation. Maybe one of your sessions, you noticed they had difficulty with a pronunciation or a spelling of a particular word, or what you want to teach that day is related to this. So you can choose that particular word family. And here I've chosen as the ending OT, but you can use IG, you can use TH, which can be problematic, even ER, IR. So really you can focus on something you've noticed maybe might help them with pronunciation or in their writing. And so to create this, what you see in the middle, and I'll go ahead and delete it, is all I did is I went over here to sticky note. What I like about Jamboard is there's only a couple of items I can use, which makes it so easy. So I created a sticky note. And so today we're going to work on words that end in OT. I type it in, I save it, and then I'm going to move it into the circle. But now oh yes, a question? No? Okay, so now what I want to do is we're going to just say some words that we know end in OT, and then I'm going to have you create a very short little poem, a rhyming poem with the words that we create together. So again, you could do this in a small group, or you can do it just back and forth with your students. So I'm going to pull up the first sticky note. And I think I'll make this one green because I can change the colors. Would someone like to give me a word that ends in OT?
Hot.
That makes sense for Florida, right? So I create this hot word, and another great thing that we can do is there's a pen here. So I'm just going to draw a line to my word. Oops, I didn't mean to draw that line, but that's okay. I'm going to use my eraser. I'm going to erase that little extra line because what I wanted to do is make my line a little smaller, but we'll leave it there. So I've got my nice line to hot. So now I'm going to go back. I'll make this one a little shorter, and I'm going to create another sticky note. What's another word that ends in O-T?
Hot.
Say that again, please.
Hot.
Hot. Okay, so I type pot, I save it. And I'm going to mirror. Oh, I used the same color. I guess I like green tonight. All right, back to my pen. And I'm going to draw a little squiggly line this time and pull up my sticky note. And let's change our color to orange. Another OT word?
Got.
Got. Okay. Oops, too many O's. Got. There we go. I'm going to save my little orange one. And I'm going to move it over to my line. Let's move it here to the side. All right. And up here, and my new sticky note. And as you can see, this would be very easy to do with just little sticky notes that you even hold up to your student, or even on a piece of paper. Let's go with blue. Okay. Another OT word.
Lot. Lot.
I heard forgot. That's nice. We'll do 2 syllables. And I'm going to move it over here. All right, let's do one more. Pink. We haven't done a nice hot pink. So one last OT word.
Lot.
Lot. Okay. Lot. All right. All right, so now all together we can pronounce our words. We're going to start from left, and when I point to it, you're going to say it out loud, and then we'll do our poetry slam and see how many words you can use in a poem. So all together, our first word is?
Hot.
Hot. Hot. Good.
Hot.
Hot.
Got.
Got.
Forgot.
Forgot. Good. And last one?
Lot.
Lot. All right. Excellent. So now I'm going to give you just 2 minutes to come up with, you can do a 1-sentence poem, a 2-sentence poem, a 4-stanza poem if you're feeling really inspired, but you have to use as many of these words as you can, and we'll see who can come up with the poem with the most words. So the timer has started. You have 2 minutes. All right. Finish up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I see one already in the chat. Forgot. I forgot the pot. It got hot. It got hot a lot. That's really great. That's from Danielle, our first one. That's awesome. Anybody else feel ready to share their amazing 1-minute poem?
I can just speak mine.
Okay, Richard, awesome.
I forgot that I was growing pot on my lot, and now I'm in hot water.
That gets bonus points for the extra words. I like that. How about one more?
I can share mine, just talking.
Is that Opal?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. What have you got? Looks like a pot. Could it be hot?
Oh, beautiful.
Very nice. I like that she added a question in there at the end. Could it be hot? Nice. How about just one more? They've been really great.
He forgot just how hot the pot got. And when he touched it, it hurt a lot.
Oh, I like that.
Great. Those were great poems. So this, again, as I said, you don't have to use a Jamboard, but I find the Jamboard one of the easiest apps to use from Google, and it is free with the Google account. And you don't have to necessarily even do rhyming. I think it's great to work on pronunciation, but if there's a particular topic for that day that you want to use just to, bring in different vocabulary words to work on, you can use not just word families, but other topics as well. So we're just about ready to finish, and I wanted to make sure, Elif, were there any final thoughts you wanted to share with everybody about your activities or anything that we discussed today?
No, not really, unless anybody has any questions. I just want to thank you again, and thank you everyone for their participation.
Okay, any last questions? I do wish you had more time to share. Sometimes I work a lot with public school teachers too, and they say, they miss that time to be together and share ideas. So in addition to questions, if anybody had less thoughts about how they might adapt or use an activity or something they'd like to share with the group, we could open the floor to do that. We have just a few minutes. Yes, I see. I don't know it says Mitts, or what is the name?
Yes, I have a I can understand my student when I'm sitting beside her, but when she talks to me on the phone, it's so much more difficult. So we set up a time that she calls me, that I do not answer, that she has to leave a voicemail. And then when we meet together, she reads the voicemail to me, and it's a good way for her to see why maybe it was hard to difficult to understand her.
Okay, so she listens to the recording of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you have a very good point about the phone and Zoom. We've all had to adapt to this new way to speak, and it is really difficult. We use facial expressions, we watch how people speak, so it can be difficult. So being able to practice and hear ourselves can be helpful. So any other quick ideas that we'd like to share? Just something that you've learned as a mentor that you'd like to share with other mentees. You've learned as a mentor that you'd like to share with other mentors.
I have something, I don't know whether it's going to be helpful with this. I used to use it when I did private lessons, just in English. And some of my students really liked reading a book. And so we would pick a book. I would get a copy, she would get a copy, and then she would be reading it. But then when we got together, well, then she would read it out loud, and I would correct her pronunciation. And these were more advanced students, obviously. But that's I don't know whether you can use it in virtual thing, but maybe adapted. But they really seem to like that.
Okay. Well, I would say what I like, Opal, is that it was a choice on the part of the student.
Yes.
I like that too. Yeah, if the student got to choose.
Yeah, they chose the book, and it would be the level, that they could read. Good.
My student did the same thing, only they chose a book that they were very familiar with in Spanish, and then bought the English version of the same book. So she already knew how the book went, but she had to read it in English.
That's a great idea, yes.
Yeah, that's great. It's again, that familiarity often makes us a little more comfortable. And I like just that you mentioned choice, that they choose to do that. They're choosing the content because we know reading out loud can be scary, right? Especially if it's a new text and we're not sure of ourselves. So if we give them that opportunity to read it in advance, to choose the material, and they know that our expectation is that we would do that. Yes, absolutely. But just make sure you never spring that on them, right? Reading out loud. I remember in my Arabic class, the teacher would sometimes spring that on us, and nothing made me sweat more than trying to read Arabic out loud off the top of my head. So again, we're right at 6:29. I don't know if Gina or Bron would want to share any, but thank you for being with us tonight. I hope the activities, we gave you just a quick snapshot, but we hope just kind of thinking about these types of activities, that you find them adaptable, that they can work well in your classrooms with your mentees, however you're meeting with them. But certainly feel free to write to us at any time if you have follow-up questions, because we certainly love to be in communication with you. So Gina or Bronwyn, is there anything you'd like to do to finish up?
No, I just want to take the chance to thank you again so much, Dr. Permensky and Alif. And I think more than anything, this just shows, I mean, I'm sure you all could have just continued to come up with ideas to share with us. And I think that all of the tutors, they're finding that hopefully we want you to find that you can think outside of the box, and that there are just, there's endless ways to do things. And we do, when you guys first pair up, we do many times resource you with, you know, kind of a curriculum with a workbook. And, but of course, as we've transitioned to virtual, that even the workbook isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do across a screen together. So, you know, Dr. Permensky, you referenced the fact that we've all had to make so many changes, and it is different now. And, but it's really been amazing to see how the tutors have made the pivot, and the students. We've been just amazed that our students have been able to make this transition with us as well. You know, before COVID, sometimes people would question why the Adult Literacy League was still doing everything on paper. And maybe we were outdated, and we kind of were in a rut where we thought that that's what we needed to do, and we needed to stay there for our students, that they maybe wouldn't be able to make this reach. And we have been surprised, and we were wrong. And I think that we're actually happy to be able to say, you know, we were wrong, and our students have made this transition. And I don't know, there's so much to see, especially all of those Google, the different Google apps. I mean, there's just so much digging into there that we can be exploring and finding more and more. But I love that you guys were able to bounce a couple ideas off of each other about reading books. And don't forget, if you are someone who's on Facebook, we did create the Facebook Tutors page, and that's what we'd love to see, more activity happening there. We're looking for different ways for you guys to connect. So if you have ideas, share them reach out to me and let me know how else we could try, even if we just gather and it's completely informal and there's no agenda. Gather this way, I mean, virtually, and we just share and talk. So I know you guys are committed, which is amazing, and you're creative. And so there's so much potential to keep growing and keep helping our students become thriving members of the community. I hope that you all had a chance to see that with the new year, we did change the wording on our mission statement to include that our students would become thriving members of the community. So you all play a huge part in that, whether it's role playing, having that conversation with their with their child's teacher, or reading a book with them and bringing that joy to their life. We don't want our students just to survive. We want to move beyond that to thriving. So thank you, tutors, and thank you to our amazing presenters tonight. And I think that's all I have, but we will be forwarding all of that. We have all the slides, correct, Dr. Perensky? We'll be forwarding everything to you guys and take time to process all of it, and we will be in touch and following up. I think that's it for us, though.
Right.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Again, it was wonderful to meet everybody, and don't be shy to get in touch, and I'll send lots of stuff to Bronwyn and Gina. And thank you for inviting us to be with you tonight. We appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. All right. So good night, everyone. I'm going to check the chat to see. I think a couple people dropped things in, but everyone have a good night. Stay dry if it's still raining. I don't even know. Bye.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks.
And our youngest member just who wanted to get the last goodbye in. That's nice.
Where did that go?
So Bronwyn, I just wanted to mention too that as I understand kind of what they were saying about working one-on-one in the conversation. So in addition to, I'll send you the recording, and you already have the PowerPoint, you have the agenda. I'll also send you some places where they can get conversation starters.
Awesome.
Which can be
Yeah.
really helpful, just those prompts in order to get conversation starters. And we're still recording, you know, by the way, but is there any last, if you want us any more information from us or anything that we could help you, you know, prepare again for anything else for them?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for checking though.
Oh, absolutely. So, well, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. Bronwyn, again, thanks for inviting us in. I hope they enjoyed it. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. And Alif, I just wanted to say thank you to her, who's doing, you know, so much right now, you know, school and working for us and doing this. So I really appreciated all that she brought tonight. So thank you, Alif.
Thank you, Dr. Perensky. And
amazing.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies. Good night.